staff of President Marcos in 1968, later becoming his military aide from 1975. Before that, he served in various positions as member of the advanced parties which arranged the President's state visits. For a time, he was acting appointment secretary of President Marcos, Colonel Arturo Arvisa.
As I salute and look at the President, at peace at last, beyond the mockery, the persecution, and the humiliation of men, I remember vividly the many hundred other occasions when I stood behind him in life, when he was at the peak of his power, in his prime, in other words, head of state, making decisions, riding through crisis after crisis, causing the machinery of government to move so that our country will reach the vision he had conjured for it. Many in this crowd tonight were privileged for years to serve him on his private staff. And of them all, I count myself the most privileged. We served him at such close range, in such intimacy, and in such familiarity that it would have been impossible for him to hide his true nature from us. Whatever his detractors may say of him now, and we leave them to the mercy and the justice of God. We on his staff remember him as a simple and kind man who heard everyone patiently out, who loved his family, was grateful to his friends and generous to his enemies, who forgave easily and quickly. He was an unusually patient man, that even when he was annoyed or irritated, he never lost his temper. In all the years that I worked at elbow's length from the man, I never heard him use profanity, not even in jest. He had a singular virtue that set him apart from humanity, from many men. He could put himself in someone's place and so act accordingly. And if he brushed aside this long, grown-up, well-planned, finely orchestrated, and not at all innocent hate campaign against the President, we will remember him as a man with a keen sense of justice, so keen that he was not vindictive or malicious or cruel, and he did not rejoice in the misery of others because he feared God and he loved God. He was a genuine patriot. His compassion for the poor was deep and real, and his record in terms of projects and achievements and goals could not be obliterated. He was a nationalist. He protected the sovereignty and the dignity of our country and defended its self-respect as an independent nation. He gave us a sense of pride as Filipinos inquired. He never stopped being curious, and he kept up with his readings on economics, history, political science, and geopolitics. And we made sure that the books were on his study, in his car, in the plane, in his sickbed, everywhere. We, on his Friday staff, will carry forward dying day the memory of his courage, moral courage, and his love of country. The reverence he held for human life, and the final sacrifice he made when he elected to leave us. When I entered his room that afternoon of the 25th of February 1986 to tell him, "Sir, it was time to go. Sir, it's time to go." He would have chosen to stay, wait for the victors, and let them have their way with him. After all, our president was a sick man. More than a sick man, he was a betrayed man. Betrayed by allies and associates, but even in that bitter and uncertain state, evil, bereft, deceived, he put others for his safety and knew that had he chosen to stay, people would die. We, or his staff, would have fought, killed, and died. The loyalists of the palace grounds would have fought and died. Others, in many parts of the country, taking a cue from this, would have fought, killed, died. And so the president stood up and allowed himself to be led away to what he had been promised would be a sanctuary, a place of refuge which would turn out to be a living damnation. For the next 3 years, every possible torment, all manner of insult and humiliation, every chuckle of grief, every snare over his pain, every insultation over his predicament and his humbling, every suffering that could be humanly imagined and some that could not, every conceivable mortification and merciless pounding and unending persecution, all these were hit on him on this island that is ironically called paradise. But still the president bore it all, without a whimper, without a bitter or reproaching word to anyone, and dignified and presidential to the end. In a sense that only we who saw him die can understand, I must express my own personal relief that his suffering has ended at last. Only his body was crushed because his spirit, fierce and proud to the end, flew straightway to God. Now as we mourn him, we might consider weeping for the country, for our country, for our people, that in time they will realize